All right. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Town of Ulysses Planning Board meeting for September 17th, 2024. First order is a roll call of board members.
Jeff McDonald.
Bart Gregg.
Linda Little.
Carl Plankowski, Chair.
Mo Klein.
For tonight's agenda, we have the following items. Approval of the August 20th meeting minutes, privilege of the floor. For old business items, we have the following: Bennett 2-lot land division sketch plat review continued. Crown Trumansburg AT&T generator project final site review. See here online, but zoning code amendments for the park recreation zone coding amendment and phase 1 discussion on standards for signs, and then board member training. Bart, you had well, let's see, no, that's
Minutes.
that's minutes, yeah. Any discussion on or amendments to the agenda for this evening?
Move. I'll make a motion.
All right,
So,
to accept, yeah.
minutes.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
The minutes
The
the agenda.
agenda,
The agenda.
yep. Okay. Has everyone reviewed the draft minutes for the August 20th meeting?
Yes.
I know Bart did, he had a change in there.
Right.
Mhm.
Does everybody agree with
Oh,
that
yeah.
change?
I wasn't here, so I wouldn't know.
It
Well-
was just, go ahead.
Yeah, it's the fuel tank sits underneath the generator unit, and the fuel tank actually is a tank in a tank arrangement.
They
with
always
With a
are.
monitoring system
Yeah,
that will alarm to alert them if they get a leak in the actual interior fuel tank.
yeah, I've worked on generators that size and they're always a double tank.
Yeah, when I first looked at the drawing, I couldn't tell that it was a double tank, so that's where the question came up, but anyway, so that's the tank and the tank difference there, Molly and stuff.
So just a question, Molly, based on my comment, did you update the minutes?
Yes.
Let's see,
Make a motion to,
approve the updated minutes.
yeah.
Yeah.
To approve the update.
I move that we approve the updated minutes.
Okay, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Yes. Okay. Privilege of the floor is the portion of our board meeting where members of the public may make general comments on items that are not related to items on tonight's agenda. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes in length. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board on items not on tonight's agenda? You're on a subject. I don't see anybody online, do you? We have a motion to close privilege of the floor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
For old business items, first item is the Bennett 2-lot land division sketch plat review continued. Mr. Gutman, yeah, if you would update us, it's been a while.
I'm not sure if anyone who's now on the board was on the board when I was
What?
last here.
Yeah, all
Oh,
the
yeah.
four of us around here were, yeah.
And I give them 3 copies of the stamp. Yeah, too. Now, I believe that the only thing I'm officially asking for is that you schedule a public hearing. Right. I think we have to have a public hearing before you give final approval. But I'm also here as if anyone has any questions about it, and have to try and answer questions. And the one point I'm gonna make, which maybe it's a little unusual, I'm gonna request that when you do the final, assuming you do final approval, that we've got this unusual little triangle, which is within the town. I'm gonna request that you grant the approval with the condition that nothing can be built on it other than the existing garage. Because the reason is that I'm gonna have to go to the BZA because every area variance, every area requirement under zoning is gonna need a variance because it's too small for anything. So I think I've got a much stronger argument to the BZA. If I'm gonna say. Garage is there. They can't build anything else.
So when do you have to go to the BZA? I mean, you've
Well,
already,
if he wants to do anything with it,
oh, you
right?
mean when you,
When-
okay,
When you,
when someone wants to do something.
I think else is requesting that I go to the BZA anyway to get those variances.
So it's one of those things where if the planning board. If the planning board schedules their public hearing before the BZA's next hearing, then you'd have to also make it a condition of that BZA.
So we're approving the site plan before the BZA,
Yes.
before you get
But you
the
would
variance.
approve it conditioned
Oh,
on the
Okay.
BZA approval.
okay. Come on, I missed that.
I think it's one of these chicken and egg things.
Yeah.
If I went to the BZA first,
Oh, we're doing-
they would approve it
Oh, yeah, I'm
conditioned
sorry.
on the
Because-
planning board.
because the house and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
stuff
that's
there is in
town.
the town of Trumansburg, and we are.
Oh, okay.
I walked down there today.
Right,
Yeah,
but the only thing the BZA has to do is hold the hearing. Right, because I think I
So
said
the
it,
BZA, I think, has to hold a hearing and hopefully
and then
grant
rediscuss
the
based
area
on that.
variances which I'm requesting.
Mhm.
yeah, it's unfortunate the way that the town and this was laid out. I'm sure the house was there long before this happened, but just.
Yeah, and usually,
So the house that's there, that's on city water, right?
Yes.
That's why there's no well or anything
Yes.
like that.
It's,
Does-
the house is entirely within the village, that little triangle.
Does it also have city sewer?
Yes,
Oh, okay, that's why there's no septic system or anything involved with this.
Yep.
Yeah, that was part of the questions a long time ago, whether there were wells involved.
Yes, yeah.
But being on city water and city sewer, that explains why there's none of that on there.
Tough piece of property.
Yeah,
Why didn't you just? Take that little triangle and just follow the property line between the two towns, Ulysses and. Trumansburg, and put it into the house lot.
well, if I put it into the house lot,
Yeah.
then I'm still gonna have this, it will be within the house lot, this triangle. The triangle is in the village.
but the other piece that's in the town here would still be outside the,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean, the other alternative is we ask the village and the town to redesign, we change
right, yeah,
the municipal boundaries. And
in your next slide.
Yeah, I know.
likely not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, this has been ugly enough, and that would be even more ugly.
the village is
Okay.
gonna have similarly a little triangle on which nothing can be built.
Yeah.
And the village has taken the position, we don't care.
Mhm.
And they put that in writing, that they don't care.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, well, it's such a tiny little piece. It's like 57 by 109 is this little baby
Mhm.
triangle in there.
You forgot the 12 inches.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That is 12 hundredths of a foot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, do we have to have a public hearing?
yeah,
I believe so.
yeah,
So I'll make a motion to have a public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Yep.
So the next meeting, October 1,
Yeah.
there's enough time to do that. If I'm gonna schedule it for them, we can do that.
and when does the BZA meet? Next?
It would be their next meeting is scheduled for the 16th.
Of October.
Yeah,
Oh, wow, okay.
well, it'll put everything back in their court.
Yeah, right.
They should have all the details they need then.
Okay,
Right?
And I guess practical question.
Hmm.
I would be shocked if anyone appears at the public hearing.
Oh, yeah, I know,
Well,
yes,
that's routine.
yes, we would have to
That I
do it.
know.
Uh,
Oh,
well, you could actually just
Can
come
you
online by
Zoom?
Zoom.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
that
think-
would be sufficient, I
Yeah.
think. I don't
That's
think
easy.
there's any requirement that you physically have to be here.
I always felt it was courtesy to the boards.
Mhm.
Well,
No,
They-
we can
they-
accept the
yeah.
Zoom, I think, yeah.
yeah,
And that's why I'm gonna leave you the plaque because
Yep.
if it's
Yeah.
granted, I think it has to be stamped and signed and all that. You have the original that.
do you need this anymore? I'm gonna give him back to Niels. He needs the real copies. And if he doesn't need them, they go back to the owner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Too bad you came in for this.
It's a nice drive.
Where are you driving from?
Well, I'm driving from Ithaca, but we have a cottage on the lake, so I'm going there next, so.
Oh.
it's-
Well, that,
It's almost on the way to the cottage.
Minor diversion.
but in October, the weather might not be so consistent.
It will.
Oh, okay.
First of October is only.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, so do we have to discuss the wording that he's asked for?
Or does that, where does that get incorporated in when we approve the,
That'd be in the resolution, so I can draft that up and put it in.
Okay.
in
And then
the
discuss it at the
resolution?
next one.
Yeah, so it's gonna be like a deed restriction and.
And I'm pretty sure the BZA wants the same thing. Their discussions, so.
So he's asking, I should have asked him while I was here, he's asking that we say in this deed restriction, for lack of a better term, that nothing else can be built in that little triangle. Should we also not put in there a provision that if they need to replace the garage, they can in kind, or, I mean, something to that effect?
So that's already carried under the non-conforming laws and the town's code, so just because the buildings. The building is already non-conforming,
Okay,
subdivision's not really gonna make it any more non-conforming, so if it had to. If it had to be torn down or burned down, under current law, they could already rebuild it
they
In the
can.
same
Yeah,
footprint.
okay.
in the same footprint.
So it's grandfather non-conforming,
I think once it has a footprint, yeah, I think it's.
okay, all right, just want to make sure that.
So they could,
We
put-
didn't-
they could put a tower. A new Airbnb.
Only if it was in the village.
Right. Okay, all right, thank you, Niels.
Just. All right. Next order of business is the Crown Trumansburg AT&T generator final site plan review. The three of us at least were here when she was online. I don't know if you've had a chance to.
I was
Steve,
here when we first
when we
started.
first started,
This was,
okay.
yeah, so
A
I know.
long
all
time
about
ago.
All right,
it. Yeah, a long time ago, really.
all right. Yeah, a couple years back when it was,
Yeah, they were
First
supposed to do it a few years back. and they-
didn't happen.
It was,
Yeah.
I think we even approved it, didn't we? Yeah, it was approved for the generator.
2022, and
Yeah.
then for whatever reason, it didn't get done.
Right.
All right. Castle Conklin, AT&T agent on behalf of owners of Crown Castle, proposes to install a new backup self-contained 30 kW diesel generator and a 4-foot by 10-foot concrete pad within the leased area. Board conducted a sketch plat review on August 20th and scheduled final site plan review for tonight. I don't think anything has changed.
Hmm, well, do we need her to say that? Or-
Do we go
Yeah,
public hearing for this?
We decided that where it was located and there's no
Yeah.
neighbors close around her, we wouldn't hold a public hearing for it.
Well, you know, normally, yeah, you
Yeah.
would on something like that.
Yeah, but they're
But
out
there's
there in
nobody
their
within
booties.
500
Yeah,
of the
There's
place?
property owners with 500 feet, so we gave notice to them, but we haven't received any comment.
Okay,
And the county came back with their comments of no impact.
yeah, I see
Yeah.
that here.
So,
Still don't have anybody, but we don't need them here
To
to,
do it.
for you to do your review and
To do
make
Okay.
a decision.
Okay,
I am requesting that you do make your decision because we're under federal law to approve.
within like
Oh.
50 days or 60 days, and this
Okay.
is our last opportunity to meet that.
Okay. and there's no reason, okay,
I don't see any reason to not approve it.
okay,
Make the motion.
to accept.
Uh,
To, I mean,
Do I have
we
a,
have
mo-
the resolution, yeah,
well,
or.
do I have a motion to close the public comment period for this project?
Yep,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Fourth is a draft resolution for the seeker 24. Planning Board Resolution number 2024-017. Resolution of seeker determination for Crown Trumansburg AT&T generator site plan located at 3250 McKeel Road, Town of Ulysses, tax parcel 24.-2-5.22. And I'll skip all the whereases and get down to. Now therefore, the planning board resolves the following, that the Town of Ulysses Planning Board hereby makes a negative determination of environmental significance in accordance with Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law and 6 New York CRR Part 617, New York State Environmental Quality Review for the above reference action as proposed based on the information in the full environmental assessment form, and therefore an environmental impact statement will not be required. All in favor? Aye.
Only the motion.
Do we need a motion
motion.
to officially?
I'll make the motion.
Oh,
A second.
let me get rid of this.
Somebody wants to fall in the vote.
Nah, it's son-in-law and something that I don't have time to deal with right now. Deal later, so
Motion's been made, seconded.
Yep.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Yeah.
Okay. So
Now.
that officially takes care of this step. Niels?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Then. Planning Board Resolution number 2024-018, a resolution of final site plan approval for the Crown Trumansburg AT&T generator site plan. Located at 3250 McKeel Road, Town of Ulysses, tax parcel 24.2-5.22. This one. Now therefore, the planning board resolves the following. Planning board hereby grants site plan approval for the proposed site plan as described above and as shown on the site plan noted above, subject to the following conditions. Conditions of approval, temporary erosion and sedimentation control measures for construction activity must be operational prior to commencement of any clearing or earthwork. All exposed ground must be reseeded within 30 days of completion of construction. If reseeding is not practical due to weather or seasonal restraints, ground must be covered with mulch. Do I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that takes care of those two. Business out of the way. The next order of business is a proposed zoning code amendment to the Park and Recreation Zone. Town Board has scheduled a public hearing for October 8th to consider amending the code for parks and preserves to be permitted uses by right in the Park and Rec Zone without the need for a special use permit. Town supervisor requested the planning board review the proposal, and consider any comments to the town board. Niels, you want to give us some background on this, how we got to this thing?
So, if you look at the zoning map behind us, we have about 7 properties that are zoned park and rec. 2019 is when the town did the last zoning code update and zoning map change, and at that same time, it also acquired the Sail Habitat, which is basically, so this is the Sail Habitat Preserve. Park. It's town owned now, they got the grants. And they almost did all their hoops and hurdles, they got town board approval, but they never came to the planning board for a special use permit. At the time, it was zoned residential, and so Parks and Rec for permitted use in the residential zone, but it needed a special use permit. With the code update, we're presuming there was just an oversight. Parks and Rec uses still need special use permit from the planning board and a park and rec zone. So most zoning codes, as an analogy, that would be requiring a special use permit from the planning board for a dwelling unit in a residential zone. It's a bit overkill. So most zoning codes permit Parks and Rec as an outright use in the park zone. So that's the request. So the town now just got, I want to say about $5,000 of grant money from the county to improve some trails in the park. But they need all their approvals, and so it's either amend the zoning code or go through a special use permit, or this other procedure where the town can override its own zoning code. But they felt the most likely best scenario was to change the zoning code.
So they want us to change the code, not just approve
Well,
the special,
the town wants to change the code,
right?
and they're just looking for our input on it if we have any particular.
Do you think that a little more elaborate to actually change the law than it is to just issue a permit this time? And do the code change when we have other code changes to make?
So a few things like if it goes to the planning board for review, then it kicks in 239 review of the county, and the county can make some comments and recommendations and suggestions, which is a good thing. But if there's any consternation, there's a lot of wetlands, there's a lot of streams on that property. And if the county says we want X buffer, then it takes a super majority to override that. So that was one of the concerns. The other option for the town to override the code is an option, but that's laborious. I haven't gone through that process yet here, but it sounds more laborious than going through public hearing for special use permit. So
Okay,
I guess I start panicking when they're
yeah,
avoiding
right. So
the
you're-
wetlands and.
they'll still have to comply with our so. From my found this help. The town has buffers, like if
Yeah.
we can say we have a 50-foot buffer.
Yeah.
The county, in some cases, thinks that buffer should be 100 feet.
Okay.
And so we've come across that for both streams and wetlands. So-
Okay.
In this case, the town, any action the town does there for trail improvements or whatever, would still have to comply with the zoning code or setbacks.
But it wouldn't come here.
It wouldn't come to the planning board. Correct. But they still have to comply with their zoning code.
Okay, what zoning code do they do? Okay, so what are the constraints? I don't know what the constraints are in the park, so,
For wetlands and all that stuff.
yeah, and all that stuff. I went to look.
It's 212, 112.
Yeah, got, okay,
Well, that's one of them. Right?
yeah,
So 18, but that's a special permit. So
Yeah, well, 124 is the regular buffers.
yeah.
yeah, we don't have that.
So for our buffers, streams and wetlands. Regardless of designation are 100 feet.
For residential.
Well, for anything, if they wanted to build
Oh, okay,
a bathroom or whatever,
right,
Yeah.
okay,
not just for residential. So the only change here would be to take park and preserve from a special permit requirement and just make it as a permitted use, similar to So for example, farm
Yeah.
operation, commercial
Right,
farm operations are permitted uses in Parkins and Brick Zone.
right.
So that would be.
Right, okay. Yeah, those are the only two edits to this document, right?
Yeah,
Does it work? If we do this?
Well, let me ask, what do you mean,
What-
how does it work?
I mean, is it,
Does it allow them to use
Okay,
the grant to make the trail improvements that they?
and as long as they stay 100 feet away from
well,
streams,
yes, as long as they comply with the rest of
they don't have to come to the
our
planning board
codes
again
and standards.
or anything, so they can avoid.
Correct.
What we went through with Jacksonville.
correct. So that was a, that was a private park. And what I think cut this one out was in part because of what happened with Jacksonville Park. And then, so this one's the town property.
So was the Jacksonville Park permitted? It had a permitted.
They did, but with the county's comments, the BZA greatly restricted their amount of off-street parking. So they can only have 3 parking
Oh,
spots.
that's right. Yeah, right. Yeah. So if this were in place now, Jacksonville. They still would be restricted.
They would have been restricted, they still would have had to go through a variance with BZA, but they just wouldn't have had to get a special use permit from the planning board.
And they wouldn't have had to restrict their parking.
They probably, they may still have,
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
discussion about
County.
parking there.
Yeah, it was a big
like
deal,
here, 239.
right?
What are the unintended consequences
That's what I, yeah.
of us saying okay to this, in your opinion?
If the planning, if you say, sounds great, that just means that for any park and rec use. In a park and rec zone, the planning board isn't gonna review it. That's all. I should also say the largest park in the town is State Park, and they don't have to comply with anything, so.
Because it's-
Janet,
Just to be kind of.
Because State Park always does things correct.
Well,
We have some.
state, doing what the state decides to do.
I would be facetious.
Right.
So,
Right,
Oh,
so.
all right, so
like,
let's see,
So.
what, yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just gonna say, so as I understand it. If we approve it, the town doesn't have to come to us for anything they do in that particular piece of property.
As long as it's.
as long as it complies with zoning code.
Right, yeah, okay.
Okay. So, and there's a separate one for rec fields, right? This doesn't park, I think I saw that.
I would imagine fields would be considered a park, either community.
Well, I thought. Oh. Okay. Campgrounds are separate, that was
campgrounds.
good,
Yeah,
yeah. Nature centers are separate. Kind of
Right.
question, like,
So I get from my background, my experience is that. This only applies to the zones, the properties that we have right now, sorry, so we've got
okay,
Jacksonville, the Girl Scouts, the Nature Center, Keegan Nature Center. The golf course, Jacksonville Park. So this only applies to those.
the ones that already exist,
Right. If there is any future
yeah,
request of a rezone. That really ought to go, not just to the planning board, but to. I'm hoping once we're all done with the comp plan, there'll be a standing committee. Of comp plan, rezone, zoning actions, that will do their own review and give a recommendation to the town board.
Hmm.
But that really should all be fleshed out in. A plan somewhere. And then once the town board, if it adopts it, will have a plan of what that park is actually gonna be like, so it effectively is doing. Site plan review uploaded. Works if you want.
oh, yeah, so there's no chance some, some farmer will just declare his
As a
back
park.
pasture a park.
Right.
do whatever, let's do. Hey, okay. All right.
What, okay, so say we have agreed that this is fine, and then I guess the town board has to pass the amendment, correct?
They have to hold
Yeah.
a public hearing.
Okay, then we'll have to have a public hearing. All right. Then walk me through briefly, you've probably already done this, but you know, it's me, what happens next with that piece or any other piece that might come up and say, hey, we wanna go park here? Do they have to go, they don't have to come to us apparently, but they will have to go to the town board?
Are you asking if the
Next
a
steps.
property owner that owns a currently zoned park? Or
Right.
you're asking if someone wants to rezone?
We'll say the golf course, let's just use that as a concrete example. What happens with the golf course? The guy says, I don't want you guys playing golf here anymore. So it's either gonna be a cemetery or,
So cemetery is a different use,
okay,
Yeah,
but if you wanted,
And a
say
different-
they wanted to just change it to a community park, they could do that.
like a skate, what if they wanted to make it be a great place for a skate park? Think about all those hills. And fishing, but
But a golf course is a separate special permit.
no, the golf, well, yes, it is, but if that, as I understand it, this golf course is also zoned park, correct?
Oh,
It's zoned park.
Yeah, so if they decide to cease operations, it could become. So then if they wanted to make it into a park, do they go to the town board at that point, or do they just make it into a park in whatever
As long as it's within
shape it
zoning,
looks like to them?
yeah,
That's the concern, is whatever shape it looks like to, you know,
So they can't change the boundaries of the zone without a town board approval.
right?
So the shape is gonna stay the same.
No, I mean, when I say the shape, it's like, okay, can they just pave over the whole thing and make it a huge skate park?
Oh.
Or do they, you know,
well, that's,
put in a Ferris wheel? Just, I mean,
Those are the ones.
yeah,
I think we'd be stuck with our definitions of what a park is.
which is.
which is,
Didn't find that one.
Recreational zone, is that what it's under? Yep. Permitted uses.
So a community park is land publicly, privately owned, used by the public during daytime, evening, recreational, educational, cultural, scenic purposes intended for use by residents. So, I mean, you could have a skate park there. My interpretation is skate park would be a component of a park.
right,
It says, permitted uses by special permit would be campground, cemetery, golf course, nature center, public or private community park, and commercial stables. That's what's permitted with special permit. So they would have to come to us for that, for a special permit, yeah, correct.
So golf course would still be, if they wanted to change anything, or if, say another park wanted to become a golf course, they would still have to come back for a special use permit.
Right, we're just saying that because the current golf course is already a park,
Some park.
Yeah.
they could. Pave. The 9 hole into.
and that's a concern, I mean,
Yeah,
you know. If they,
and it's a private, is it a private? Yeah, it must be.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, if you have it, it's 212.110. It's the purpose, and then after that, it's permitted uses. The purpose is, of course, to protect the natural resources within the town of Ulysses. And the permitted uses is, it says no building or structure shall be erected, altered, or extended. And no land or building thereof shall be used for any purpose or purposes other than the following, and then comes. It says farm operation, which is interesting for a park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really, I know,
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a little unusual right there.
So I guess it's not to go down a different rabbit hole, but
Oh, well, you're interested.
let's do.
you could get let's say a CAFO. But if a large dairy farmer wanted to go in and do like 200 or pig farm
Mhm.
in a park zone, they could do that by right and you wouldn't have, it would have come before the planning board.
Yeah,
Great.
so why don't we modify that as well?
Yeah.
A special permit.
And then I mean, there's more to this than just what I just said. It keeps
Yeah,
going.
right. No,
And
yeah,
there's
right.
more interesting items in this little section.
Yeah, well, there was town board members that thought a few of those other interesting ones should be included in this move to, things that make sense for a park.
Yeah,
But they want to limit it to just moving that one sentence in there to
To avoid,
a lot of,
Moving that one. sentence
my
has
guess is state
big
scrutiny and that kind of stuff when they try to send it in to get it approved.
well, there's more goes on, but it's also temporary buildings and structures uses for office sales, storage, fabrication. It goes on and on, so really. A park could be anything with a
That's my
special
point.
permit.
That's my point.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Who's gonna define what a park is when that time comes?
Even parking lots.
Well, everything requires a special permit other than what we're trying to move up to the first section to join the farming.
Yeah, yeah.
Which would seem kind of odd.
Yeah, it's an interesting a little section here about parks. I didn't know that a park you can put office buildings in, but I guess you can according to us.
maybe they think the park
Well, that's,
office is an office building.
yeah, but that section is just talking about temporary during construction related to the development of the site, provided that such building or structure.
Yeah.
Not for more than a year, so.
Temporary could be 5 years. Because they just keep coming back and saying, well, another year, and if it's approved, it's approved. That's interesting.
To be sure, this is just one example of a very small section of code that has a lot of issues with it. And this really is just a Band-Aid for Salo, so. Parks and preservation is one of the items in the comp plan, so,
Yes.
so.
So
lot of
shouldn't we
this-
just leave this to go through the comp plan revision and talk to them about the Salo thing? And giving them, talk about getting them a special permit?
So
I'm not happy with this. I'm just gonna go on record saying that.
I can say, so if with that action, the town would lose the funding for Salo, and then the town board would then, if it took the advice of the planning board, it'd be left with either overriding its zoning code or going with the special use permit, and I think I'm presuming they would probably override the zoning code.
Mhm.
And that would, and when you say override the zoning code, that would be for all parks in the town. Or
They-
just this particular piece of
I
property,
believe it would just be for Salo. I think it's site specific.
okay? Because if it's site specific, it's only that little section up there, and that would be a condition that would have to be written in. If we approve it, that it would only be for that one particular piece of property.
It would be like a development district or something.
Yeah, because otherwise that puts in jeopardy all the parks in the town.
That's my big concern, is
If
that all
we
the
change
parks
the
could then
zoning.
become,
I mean, that's what would happen.
You know,
All the
the
parks
parks
in
will-
the
as
town
long
would
as they're
now
not
be
within 100 feet
subject
of
to
the way.
whatever. Is in this
Yeah.
section here.
can we do that? Can we? Recommend that they put.
Ferris wheels are above 2 stories. I think.
I understand that. It's just- I mean. I think that just because, I normally would not ask this question, but I'm going to now. When did they know about this?
So I can't remember when Carissa approached me about replacing this boardwalk. I haven't to be,
I'm not trying to put you on the spot,
No, no, no.
Niels, I'm just,
I haven't been on site, so I don't know, but there's like a boardwalk or sections of the site that have boardwalk,
Yeah,
and they want to also put in some. Like picnic tables. So the question first came in, like, do we have any constraints? It's like, oh, yeah, you got a couple streams, you got some wetlands, and you have a flood zone. And then that's what started all the discussion of like, oh, okay, well, what was the history? Did we go through everything? It's like, well, you got your town board approval when you got the money to acquire the land, but you didn't go through the planning board when it was still zoned residential for your special use permit. Had they done that, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. But then they rezoned it in 2019 to Park and Rec, and they didn't fix this issue,
Mhm.
which should have been fixed at the time, so. Yeah. But to your question, I mean, it's up to the board, how you wanna, you don't have to make a recommendation. You don't have to give anything to the town board, but that's
Right.
what the request was, is. It's sure, but
So
Mhm.
even with this change, if the change got made, the permitted accessory uses still require site plan review, right?
site plan,
Or
which is different
planning
than-
board.
right, so site plan review is different than
Yeah.
special use permit.
It's a different problem, but the permit comes to us, or does it just go to the town? Or,
If anything, so any site plan approval for any of the things listed on 113.
The only problem with a special permit is it just opens the opportunity for somebody to come up with a special permit. And if it's something that we can't do anything about. It's, you know, if somebody comes up with an item, and if we say no, the town board can say yes. That would be the end of it.
Okay, but still,
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I know.
if we approve it, and if there's a special permit, somebody comes up with a golf course, a special permit, they wanna do something. You know, put in whatever, and if we say, no, we don't want you to do that, that's our opinion. The town board could override that and say, yes, you can do that.
Okay.
Because the town board is the lead authority in the town.
right,
and they're gonna change, they're the ones that change the law.
So if
Yeah.
all the properties are in jeopardy if the zoning is changed. Unless we can come up with something that states only that particular property is involved with this zoning change.
right.
But you're really only looking at two properties really that have any kind of ability to be developed in anything else. One is the golf course and the other one is nature center and Girl Scout camp.
Is the
Yeah,
nature
there.
center a park now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, there's more than that, isn't there?
Well, Smith Woods is covered, right?
Yeah.
Unless it goes under.
Right,
Taganik obviously isn't gonna do it.
No, that's state, right?
Salem is a town facility,
Yeah.
which isn't gonna change. Jacksonville, I don't know Jacksonville at all.
It's a
but-
private,
Private.
But
Under-
that could get redeveloped
Yeah.
anyway, right, under. So
It is,
really,
yeah.
the two big ones are,
It's a community park in Jacksonville.
the golf course, I mean, if the golf course goes under. I mean, the likelihood is they're gonna come in and ask to rezone it. As
Oh,
housing,
yeah,
so,
but right now it's considered a park, recreational area. So how many properties are we talking about in the county of Ulysses that would be in jeopardy?
Well, in jeopardy, I don't know what you mean by jeopardy.
Well, I mean, if we change the zoning and now all the properties conform to the new zoning,
There are seven.
so. And I didn't mean to use the word jeopardy, but which one, you know, which
Yeah.
one would be
The nature, center-
involved in this?
Yeah,
the
but it
nature center
convicts
is
us how I
private
feel.
too, right? Yeah,
Yeah, Nature Center Smith is private, that's owned by the Nature Center.
right.
Back to you, sir.
Yeah.
well. I go back to if you're gonna define a. Part of the town as parks and recreation, then you ought to be able to use that piece of property as a park and recreation facility and. the changes you need to do to make that a functional one. And if you're gonna keep the trails operational and that sort of stuff, you gotta do maintenance on them.
I don't, you won't get the argument with me about that, but what defines a park?
Park. That's what we're struggling. with. We don't have a really good definition. That we feel comfortable that will impact anything zone park.
In the original zoning, the purpose does say. Zone to protect natural area and scenic and recreational resources within the town of Ulysses. So that's the purpose of it,
Right.
of
That's
the
the spirit
parks.
of it. Yeah.
But then, I mean, there is permitted uses after that. So the purpose is correct. I mean,
Right.
but. Does that mean that somebody could change their mind and, you know, like you say, rezone an area or whatever?
But those constraints are kind of taste.
Well, when it comes to
Oriented.
when it comes to the golf course, that's private. So they can do whatever they want, basically. They can come in and zone it, you know, if they want to
Yeah.
change it or whatever. I'm just talking about the
Yeah.
public lands.
Right.
Really, the golf course is not even on the table for this. It would be just the public lands.
I get that, but see. For me, the picture looks like this.
Mhm.
We're trying to cram something through for a $5,000 bill. The unintended consequences of which could run into hundreds of thousands. That's my problem with the whole situation.
That we really haven't looked at all of the unintended consequences
Correct.
enough.
Yeah. Well, we do have the option of just punting and not sending anything back to the town board,
Mm.
you know.
Well, what do we,
Yeah, but I think we'd be better to put a response together for them that
Well, we
says,
could also say we believe they need more time,
Yeah, we could just say we have our concerns.
concerns and.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and spell it, what defines a park? What are the unintended, future
Yeah.
unintended consequences? They're
Yeah.
gonna do what they're gonna do anyway.
yeah,
right.
yeah,
They were just asking our being respectful.
yeah. Essentially, yes.
Sorry.
Well, making it very difficult for them.
Yes,
You could also make a recommendation that. Change be only for public parks, not private parks.
There you go. That'll be helpful, I think,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, okay,
Publicly owned parks, I should say.
yeah, I get it.
Because then it leaves out all the private parks, which is the golf course and all the other
Yeah.
areas.
Who could have a different sense
Then
of
they
what
have
it
to be a
takes
special.
to
permit.
preserve.
Right,
Right,
yeah,
and
they
would
they
still
would,
have
they
to-
would stay down under the special permit section.
Yeah.
right. Which would cause them to be reviewed before they.
Thank you, Bill. That's a good suggestion.
That's probably the clean way to separate this.
Still, so.
So how do we put that in something to officially give it back to the town board?
So if the board would like a memo, I can draft something up and give it to Carl for final review. I'll put that on the town board's docket.
Appreciate
That'd
it.
be all right?
Yes.
Can we ask them to move farm operation down to needing a permit?
Yeah, right.
Seriously.
No, that's
Yeah.
actually, why not? Why not?
I don't know if that was a town board meeting, but I'm pretty sure there was discussion that people are concerned that that might get. newer communities. Yeah, just it's already there right now, so why?
And trying to keep this to the minimum change necessary to be able to use the funding.
Where
know.
are they mowing hay in Tegana?
Here's the problem, because of that little farm operation. If you try and change that, you'll have the agricultural department here in a matter of minutes saying, why are you doing that?
Yeah,
And that
Okay.
would be a problem.
that's something that
Yeah,
needs
so
to
we
be
can see
addressed
Yeah.
as part of the next
Well, that'll be
zoning
the comp
revision.
plan.
Right.
The comp plan would have to address this.
And,
None of those parcels are super.
Well,
Well-
it's just the idea of.
Oh, somebody will
Yeah,
help with
yeah.
something.
Oh, yeah, believe me. So little
Fish.
known fact around here. In the county of Marin, California, the top complaint the sheriff's department gets is the odor from pot farms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, so, yes, Neil, if you would draft
Yeah.
something, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and when you draft it up, if you send it so everybody can see it, and then I'll sign it for us here. So
Sounds good.
That way you guys, if there's something in there that doesn't come through the way you'd like it, let me know or let us know. We'll work it out.
We'll do. Thanks, Carl.
Yeah. Okay, that one took a bit, where were we at? 10 minutes late. All right, we still got a little bit of time. I just want to try to make sure that I'm not running us over unnecessarily. Yeah. The last town board meeting, Tuesday night of last week I went to, it was interesting. They tried hard to ignore our memo, but, Mr. Boggs finally said, I've been sitting there all meeting. So they did finally get into a discussion on it and about us, looking at zoning updates that as we become aware of them, like we're working on the sign stuff right now and that to kind of, we put together how we want to do business. I don't know if you've seen that yet or not, but anyway, so after some discussion, the real concern from Caitlin's point is with the comp plan review going on would be how much time we would suck up for town staff, particularly Niels and Molly and that sort of stuff in doing this. My way of looking at it, the phase one part of this is really just us planning board members looking at it, or me going around trying to get info from Niels or
Right.
Mark or the BZA to get a feeling for what are out there for ugly items that we ought to be looking at. If we bundle a couple, three of these together and go through their ad hoc review committee, then it would finally come to the point that we may have to involve some town members in that. And I'm certainly not gonna try and derail the comp plan to do some of this stuff, but I think working on these ahead of time.
Yeah. Actually, Carl, it would be beneficial for us to work on these because these can go to the comp plan. We can introduce
suggestions
them,
to the-
yeah, we can introduce them to the comp plan and say, this is what we're working at the planning board, and then the comp plan could carry it on.
Some of this, that's good. I hadn't thought of that approach of kind of moving it in ahead of time into the comp plan.
Well, that's why if we go through some of these zoning, that's really bizarre. We can bring it up to the comp plan and then they can review it and say, well, wait a minute, well, maybe this should be changed.
Okay. But anyway, after some discussion, they are gonna come through with a resolution. I don't know what the wording is going to be yet on their 24th of September meeting. So next week's meeting, I'll just have to watch their agenda and see what pops up in there or what the wording on it is. But interestingly, Mr. Goldman and Mr. Boggs both want to see us continue on with this. Ms. Weatherby and the other lady on there were just kind of neutral. I haven't been able to really get a feel for the two of them. Caitlin is concerned about, overloading town staff and that sort of stuff.
But we wouldn't be doing that because we'd be talking among ourselves and coming up with something.
Yeah.
And then when it's all done, it would be going to somebody at a comp plan or to Niels just to review it. It's not that he's going to be rewriting everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And I certainly
You know
appreciate,
what I mean? You would just look at it and say, yeah, it looks good, and that would be the end of that.
well,
Still.
I'm sure it'll have to go legal and get bounced through.
I'm not saying that it would just, you could say it would be okay, and then it can go from there.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be putting a lot of pressure on it, would it?
If we're going to be doing systematic rewrites, I wouldn't want to be involved. Just.
Well, yes,
I-
yeah.
got, like,
Yeah.
Too much experience in this.
Yeah.
I mean, use me as a resource, definitely.
Right. But I mean, would it put more work on you if we do something like that?
If we're affected, possibly.
Yeah, it's eventually going to get into his time and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And no matter what we do, he's
Well,
gonna get. pulled
eventually,
into
yeah,
this.
of course, when we
Yeah.
review something, yeah.
Yeah, but I think if I got what Carl's saying, like at phase one, it's just initial reviews. I mean, it's a lot of brainstorming.
Yes,
Yeah. And trying to get a handle on how bad some of these issues are.
yeah.
And like your suggestion of looking at some of the other towns and seeing what they're doing. And get a feel for how others have attacked this problem. We're not the only one dealing with this
No.
stuff.
Oh,
And
no, a lot of towns are.
yeah, and so I think, whether we get permission or not, some of this we're just gonna carry on. Yeah,
And we're not, because sometimes we're the first people to pick up on it.
yeah,
Yeah. Yes, because it comes across our desk here, somebody comes up and says, oh, I'd like to do, and then all of a sudden we notice, oh, there's a
Yeah.
problem.
and I do wanna sit down with the BZA at some point. I'm sure they've got a list of open items too, and try and get a feeling. I know Neil's, if I can fish it out of him and Mark have got an ugly items list that they've been dealing with day in and day out.
Well,
That I would like to incorporate into that spreadsheet, and we can get a better feel for just how ugly this zoning code is, and maybe what parts we ought to be looking at first.
Right.
well, should we invite them to come to one of our meetings, or at least one of them who has a list?
One of them, yeah, it has a list. I'll get a hold of them and see what we can do, and
Yeah.
I kinda, it helped there because Bob Howarth, his wife was sitting next to me the other night in the town board meeting.
Mm.
And so she picked up on that right away to say, oh, somebody ought to really be putting this whole mess together. So that we could get an idea of just the ugly items out there that we need to
Right.
make sure we take care of.
Right.
And so I'll work with them and see what I can get for put inputs, but that's why I created that spreadsheet essentially with a separate page for each of the different entities.
Mm.
To kind of long-term, try and get them, just as you stumble across it, just stick it in there so we know that it's out there. And we can start working from there, and if we don't, if we feed it into the comp plan and get it addressed that way, that works. Otherwise, the next zoning update that's gonna follow after the comp plan update,
Yeah,
at least we got a handle on some of the mess that we need to be working on, and if we've had time to think about it. And put some details together how we think this ought to be attacked,
mm,
I think we'll have better success at, some of this, I would like to think that we could get it to the point that whoever does the markup on it, that's what they're putting in for the markup.
yeah.
It's just, it's kind of a starting point. So, Bart, I appreciate your efforts with, your stuff on the signs and that kind of stuff here.
Yeah.
That, he's been doing his AI trick on it.
And I have to send you, I have all the other towns in the area, their sign ordinances, but I don't know how big your email is.
Send it to, it's not a matter of that. I'm currently using free AI
Yeah.
and I'm,
Oh, did that trick I told you about, did that work for you?
oh, you know what?
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I haven't had that issue.
Okay.
It's a matter of, yeah, how big and how deep some of the 4.0 that I can get to without paying a fee, a monthly fee. I don't know, was it $20 a
Well,
month or
and
something?
the other thing, don't you have to have it in a Word document to get it to look at it?
I uploaded. You know, what? I don't know for sure. I think it can scan PDFs. I'll try
Deal
it
from-
tomorrow.
Deal from a
Do a
PDF.
PDF, it's easier
Yeah.
than Word, because every time you open up a Word, Microsoft says, well, so you want to subscribe to us? No. I
Oh,
don't.
yeah, it's.
Yeah.
it's-
Well, I took the one for the town of Dryden and I just retyped it as a Word document.
Yeah.
And gave it to him that way to put in, so that there wouldn't be any, I didn't know if you could get it to go from a PDF or not. But I just took the
That's
time to retype it for him and let him just feed it in as a 2-page Word document, and
Well,
that seemed to work
Do you have it,
smoothly.
Toby?
I have,
I don't,
Yeah,
$25 a month for what?
yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
I have
That's more than
Cayuga,
that.
Dix, Seneca, Canandaigua, and Watkins Glen, all their sign ordinances.
Why don't I send you a file request from Dropbox? Then you just upload it on my Dropbox. Okay. You guys.
No,
I'm second you in it.
I have an account in Dropbox, but of course, they want money now too.
Sure,
Yeah.
because it's full, so delete a bunch of crap, but
Yeah.
yeah, so if I send you a link saying upload it here, it'll go into my Dropbox, not
Okay,
into yours.
okay. Yeah, I just have a few, I mean, it's just different ways how they worded it, and some of them are really short,
Okay,
where they don't have to be very long anymore. I
Right.
mean,
right,
so I can send you that, yeah.
okay. Okay. So these spreadsheets you're talking about, are they on Google Docs? That we can
well,
get
it's
access to?
already on Neil's uploaded on the town site for me there. It should be in there under the planning board. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, yeah, let's take a look here.
Where am I back here? Let me get back there. Board and committees, planning board.
Sometimes it's a little difficult to get through all
The
of it.
planning board or town board?
Planning board.
Okay.
General plan board. Yep, loaded it in there. I gotta see if I can figure out how to get to it.
All I have is,
I wouldn't think a link would be public,
Yeah,
something like that.
Well, that's,
that's, yeah,
Niels, do you remember where you put that Excel spreadsheet I gave you with the zoning update stuff? I know I think you uploaded it under planning, but I'm looking, trying to figure out how I would get back to it so that all of us could see it. It's probably one of these, we're supposed to go in there, like the comp plan update under teams or something like that.
Yeah.
It's probably where it's buried at.
it gets confusing.
Oh, is it on OneDrive?
No, we don't use Google Drive. Are you talking about an Excel spreadsheet that
Yeah.
you were?
That had with the updates to the zoning, there was like a half a dozen of them in there.
I think that was just in an email.
And, okay. But I'm trying to figure out if we could get it to some place that we can all access.
Google Docs is one way.
Yeah. that would be the
But if
simple
we
way.
do that, it
Yeah.
should be a town
But it needs to
member
be,
that invites us in case something happens.
Yeah, so we'd have to do, it'd have to be a separate SharePoint site, because the town only does 365 now, it doesn't do Google.
right.
Okay,
So, yeah, let me see if I can throw something together.
because you need something
You
else.
just-
to do.
There should be a board SharePoint site.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, as long
Board
as,
SharePoint site.
discussion is not on items of decisions like site plan, special use
Yeah.
permit, stuff like
Yeah,
that,
right.
because then it
Yeah.
triggers public notice.
this is just really kind of a gathering point for the ugly items that we know about already in the code. And-
Actually, I can put that on Google Docs, all these, it would be much easier to do it there. All these, sign ordinances.
Okay.
Okay, let's not do that yet.
No, I'm not
That's a
gonna
good
do that.
idea,
I'm
but
saying
yeah,
that it would be easier to upload it up there.
right, it would be.
Yeah,
So if we could figure out where the central point's gonna be, Google Docs would be a good one. It's just we would need, I would think we would want to use a town email to create that area.
Mhm,
Instead of say if I did it and
Yeah.
then something happened to me and nobody else had access to it,
Right,
right?
right.
So if Niels or Carissa had,
yeah,
this is a Google Docs and spreadsheets for the planning board,
Hmm.
then does that make sense to you, Neil?
Yep,
Yeah.
but
but-
still my same comment, like,
Yeah,
we don't-
seriously.
we don't do Google anymore, so
Okay.
it's all, it would be SharePoint.
Okay, so just
Uh,
anyway, you get the idea.
Microsoft.
Well,
Oh, I know,
we-
they're
we-
getting worse too.
We,
Oh,
we
they
will, we will figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah, put them on you.
Yeah.
I was using Teams, I've been using Teams, I don't know how long, all of a sudden I get Windows 11 update, and every time for the past 2 months that I log into it. There's something changed, and I'm like,
Well, now, Windows just put that little. Everybody who has Windows 10, who doesn't have a new computer or a new chip. They were able to bypass it and put Windows 11 on.
yeah,
Now they have a little bug in there that you can't do it anymore, and anybody who has Windows 10 and put 11 on is gonna find out it doesn't work.
well,
So you have to buy new computers.
the thing, yeah, the other thing is.
Open office.
You guys, I wanna say to Microsoft, instead of trying to quote, make things bigger and better. I mean, look at all the little things that a person could potentially do for a meeting.
Yeah.
Nobody does all that. Just make it work.
What you want is Dropbox for dummies, right?
Yeah.
Team for dummies or.
Teams are- Yeah, right.
Right. Well, I was in 2000, when was it, 2000? 2010. Lived in California at that point, and my CPA was Microsoft partner or whatever. So we went to Sacramento to the big rollout, maybe it was 2000 anyway. And it's a huge conference center. We're in the Microsoft Word rollout. And the guy up front said, we go back to people and ask them what they want to see. And the problem that we have is 85% of what people wanted in Word is already there. They just can't find it. Duh.
It was all.
And the people they really listen to are the people, the
We're ready to
super
give up for
users,
tonight?
Right.
who want everything in the
Yeah.
world,
And
yeah,
it's just-
right.
Excuse
Excuse
me,
me,
I would like to make a motion.
to
Oh, no. I did
Adjourn?
not.
Adjourn.
Must be A.
second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll let Niels and Molly get out of here to read some time.
Well, that's
Thank you,
gonna be
Molly.
here in real
Yeah.
time.
Hope we were.
When you get the
entertained tonight.
paperwork